Okay, so as always, as I start off, as always, I feel incredibly privileged. I keep getting more privileged as I see us growing and the amount of people that have spoken for us and the topics. It's actually becoming mind-boggling. And I don't know how we have such a close to daven to do all these things together and then to learn Torah. And when we heard Rabbi Wolf yesterday talk about what's happening with the women, this is watching all these women speak and watching the Torah coming out, and it's just unbelievable. So Rebbetzin Golshevsky is one of the foremost teachers today in the world. She is the director of SHIVITI. She holds primary and secondary teaching certification from Yavne Teachers College in Cleveland, as well as a BA from SUNY Buffalo in Classics-Judaic Studies. Rebbetzin Golshevsky has been a well-known Torah educator in Jerusalem and abroad for over 25 years, with students from all over the world. She's a published author, editor, and translator, but teaching Torah is her first love. And with that, I feel so privileged. Thank you so much. Yehudis, are you there?
I'm on. Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So nice to see you.
Oh, Hashem. I hope you can hear me. I've decided to use headphones. Okay, good. I hope there's not going to be a lot of background noise for the purpose of, let me unblur my background. I want to take everybody on a special journey today. We have an opportunity for the sake of, in the shame of, for the delight of Rosh Chodesh, upcoming Rosh Chodesh Nissan. And because we're going to be learning about the renewal of Nissan, I decided to get into the actuality of the renewal of Nissan. Okay, so Nissan. By the way, we are in my garden. Okay, we're going to be learning Torah, but I also want you to have the opportunity to understand things more viscerally, more physically, more straightforwardly. Okay, so I'm going to switch my camera. Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. Yes, you can hear? Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, now Nissan is one of the languages of Nissan is Nissan. You see this little flower? Okay, now this little flower is the blossom of an Ogden plum. Here are the soon-to-be budding out blossoms of a Meyer lemon. And here, right, I do live in Geula. That's the old educator. And up there, if you can see, there's already new fruits, new nectarines forming. And here's a grapevine. You see it's coming out in leaf. Okay, so Nissan, Milshon, Nitzan. Nitzan, Nitzanim are buds and blossoms specifically. Kadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim in the month of Nisan. Nisan, as it says in Shir HaShirim, Hanitzanim Ne'u Va'aretz, the buds, the budding blossoms have been seen in the land. Hanitzanim Ne'u Va'aretz, I don't know if you can hear the birds. The sound of the songbirds has come. V'kol haTorah nishma ba'artzeinu. And the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. Now, the facts of the physical opening up of this hischadshus, I want to show you something. Do you see this? This is called HaChodesh HaZelachem. This is called the hischadshus of Nisan. You see everything coming back into life, everything coming back into bloom. Blueberries are flowering and forming fruits. That's not stam, okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this for the Jewish people, as it says in Tilim Samech. And this is where I like to sit. Here, this is my view. This is where I sit to learn, to say my Tilim, to daven. In Perek Samech, we have here, I hope you can see it. Elokim Moshiv Yechidim Baisa. Hashem brings those who are alone home. Motzi Asirim Bakosharos. He brings out the prisoners Bakosharos. Now, according to the Rishonim, kosharos is also from the language of kosharos, from their chains. But the truth is a kesher, a kosher is with a kuf, not with a kaf. So the sages said on this in the Medrash Tehillim, at a time that's kasher to come out, meaning the spring. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is kind to us, and the season of everything coming into bloom, and everything beginning again, and everything being renewed in the world, which I don't know where you are. You could be anywhere in the world. You could be, I don't know, you could be in Honolulu, or you could be in Alaska, and maybe in the place where you are, it's not exactly Asa Zamir. Maybe not now, maybe not yet, but time, Jewish time, is really founded on what's happening in Eretz Yisrael. This is our native place, and everything that's happening here forms the boundaries and the definitions for the cycle of time for us. And all of our Yom Tovim and all of our holidays, everything is moving around that, that system of what's happening in Eretz Yisrael. So I'm telling you right now, wherever you are in Eretz Yisrael right now, this is peak time of Hitchut, peak time of renewal, peak time of everything that appeared to be dormant and dead, it comes back into life. Now, the name of this class, I don't know how much time we have together, but I can share with you only for the time that I've got going. But Nomi, how much time do we have, Sachakol? Until what time am I supposed to teach?
What time? How much time do you need?
No, I'll work around what time you have. What time am I supposed to be done? You tell me. What? I'll work with you.
How much time do you need?
I could finish in 5 minutes. I could finish in 50 minutes.
No, more than that. Of course. Go ahead. Okay. Just go.
Yeah. Okay. So we have, so let's go back to the renewal. This coming Shabbos, we're going to be benching Minu Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh will be Motzei Shabbos, Be'ez Hashem, Rosh Chodesh Nissan. And Parshat Chodesh is going to be read also in Shul. And I want you to know that when we read the words, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Roshei Chodeshim, so this month of Nisan, this is your Roshei Chodeshim, this is the beginning of the year for you. So this is HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. In terms of Hasidus, what we say is, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, this is for you, meaning within every Jewish person is a spark of capacity for renewal, for complete self-regeneration. It's not only for the Jewish people as a whole. The month of Nisan is the month of our original Geula, and it's also the month of the future Geula. But within each and every one of us, this spark of Geula, it's peak time for it to come back into life. And that means that to get like a new sense of vibrancy in life, in Avodas Hashem, in everything in our lives, the month that has this koach more than any other month of the year, it's always possible at any time to start fresh. And we always have to start fresh any number of times, constantly. But the peak time for doing this in any year and having a special segula that the month really helps, the time is going, the time helps us, is going to be from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And of course, from Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the perfect time for saying the bracha, the special blessing on the blossoms of fruit trees. And that's to connect us with this idea that of the segula, like that everybody's got their segula within them, their special properties within them that's coming out into a new kind of freshness. You know, let's go back to the idea of Nisan altogether. Nisan, names of the months, they came out from Bavel with us. However, there's a difference of opinions among the sages as to whether these were month names that we used earlier and it only came into the Ketav, meaning the first time that we see that the months are referred to by the names that we know them, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, all of these month names we only find like chronologically in our textual tradition, meaning through Tanakh, we only see months referred to by these names past the exile into Bavel. But the truth is, the sages tell us that we know that there were some references to the use of these months, meaning the Jewish people did use these names prior to that time. How do we know? We have one beautiful medrash that tells us that when Moshe Rabbeinu came to the Jewish people after HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke with him at the Sneh and told him about his mission of coming to redeem the Jewish people. So he, and all that week of going back and forth of HaKadosh Baruch Hu reassuring Moshe and calling upon Moshe to carry out his purpose and so on. But eventually Moshe Rabbeinu was given simanim to bring to the Jewish people in Mitzrayim, and that was supposed to wake them up so that they would, through the elders of the people, that they would wake up and realize the time for the Geulah had come. And so we know that he used the term pakod pokariti. However, originally the elders of the Jewish people were reluctant to hear his message. We understand, and part of it was because they knew that Avram Avinu had made a pact with HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the time of the Bris Bein HaBasarim, the covenant between the parts, which is described in Parshas Lech Lecha. And it says very clearly in the Torah. It says very clearly in the Torah that the exile was going to last for 400 years. So at the time that Moshe Rabbeinu came to redeem the Jewish people, we hadn't yet fulfilled our time. We hadn't yet fulfilled our the debt that had to be paid in order to be able to come out a people ready to receive the Torah, having repaired all that we needed to repair as a people of the damage that had been caused by the eating of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. There's a long story of the preparation of the souls of the Jewish people to be able to come out and become the people of Hashem. And so that was all taking place in the Kor HaBarzel, in the iron furnace of Mitzrayim itself. Now, the elders, when they expressed their kind of disbelief that the time had come, part of it was because they knew that there should be 400 years. And we were released after only 210 years. So the Bnei Sasra points out something very, this beautiful medrash. It says that when Moshe Rabbeinu said, but Nissan is the time you'll be coming out. And when the elders of the Jewish people, when the Zkanim heard this, they said, Siman Tov B'Davar. That's a good siman. That's a good sign for the Jewish people that that's going to be effective. Now, why? So the Bnei Sasra tells us that it's because if you add up what's called the ribua, the full fleshing out of the name of the month Nisan, it's Nun Yud Samech, Nun Yud Samech Nun. Does everybody understand what I mean by that? In Hebrew, using Lashon HaKodesh, there are a lot of different ways of manipulating the letters that imply different spiritual meanings. So one of them is called the ribua. When you take a word and you start with its first letter and you build it out, Nun Yud Samech, Nun Yud Samech Nun, that's called getting the totality of the nature of Nisan. So the Bnei Sasra tells us the full numerical value of that ribua, of that full building out, is 400. When the elders heard the word Nisan, they realized that that's called, when it says in the Bris Bein HaBasarim, in Avram Avinu's covenant between the parts with HaKadosh Baruch Hu about the nature of the exile, it says the Dor HaRevi'i, the fourth generation are the ones who are going to come out. The fourth generation is a side reference, a hidden reference to Nisan when it's brought to its ribua. That means the fullness of the meaning of Nisan is that even though the Jewish people had not fulfilled the dictates of the pact that had been made with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we had to go to Egypt for 400 years and we had to be enslaved for 400 years. The Shiabud was not that long. We weren't even there that long. Forget about the Shiabud. The worst of the Shiabud was only 86 years. So the worst of this enslavement was really only the end of it. It wasn't even the full term of 210. So the idea that Nisan itself is so full of vitality, freshness, and newness, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, that it was possible as a people, because we were redeemed in Nisan, it meant that it was possible to skip ahead. And that's, of course, the idea of Pesach, is to skip ahead, that it's possible to take a leap past the barriers that would normally hold you back to be able to come to completion, even though you're not really ready for it. And just like it was when we were first redeemed, so too it will be when we're redeemed in the future. In Yot Hashem, may it be soon. This idea that the koach chadshus, this newness that's available to us. And there are other elements that are very important for us to touch upon in the nature of Nisan. It says there are 4 in the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. It tells us there are 4 New Years, right? 4 types of New Years. We have the New Year of the kings. Well, we have the New Year of the year itself, okay? which is that's in Tishrei for the world, and we have the new year for the kings, which is Rosh Chodesh Nissan. So we have Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, Rosh Chodesh Nissan. We have the new year for the trees, which is a machlokes beis Shammai beis Hillel about whether that's going to be Rosh Chodesh Shvat, or in the end we go by Hillel, and it's Chamisha Asar b'Shvat. And then we have the new year for Meiser Behema. The new year for Meiser Behema is Rosh Chodesh El, and so we have 4 different spiritual new beginnings. And I'm only going to talk now about Rosh Hashanah Lamlachim. Now, this coming Motzei Shabbos and Sunday, part of the renewal aspect of Nisan, of its budding, its fresh budding and flowering, of what can come in the peros that can come, the fruits that will come from it, is that when it says in the Mishnah that it's the Rosh Hashanah for kings, it means on one level, it means collectively. This is the Yom Hadin. We're coming up next week on the Rosh Hashanah Day of Judgment for whether we're going to be meriting, the Jewish people and the world as a whole, genuine Jewish leadership this year. There's nothing that's more important than this right now. Genuine Jewish leadership, meaning that we should have a Isgalus Mashiach Tzidkenu, that actually we should let go of all of the trust and the security that we've put in all kinds of people, places, and things that have nothing to do with our actual security and our actual viability as a people. All of that we have to let go of, all of the nonsense and all of the illusions, and only put our trust and hope in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's going to send us a proper leader for the Jewish people who carries the spark of Moshe Rabbeinu, who's a child from the house of David, who has in him the capacity to carry out the month. This month has a Shavit. What's the Shavit for this month? Every month has a tribe. There's 12 tribes in 12 months. Who's the tribe for this month? Yehuda. It's the Malachim, our concept of Malchus. Where does it get its renewal? This month in Nisan, okay? So it's a very big day to pray for genuine Jewish leadership, which should be Zoche. The other part of it is HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. It's not only that it's a Rosh Hashanah for leadership for the Jewish people, which of course means great leadership for the world, that the world should be put to rights, but also for every single individual, every single Jew. We are all called B'nai Malachim. We are all called princes. We all are kings within ourselves. That means to say our destiny, our job is to reveal Hashem's Malchus in the world. Not for us to rule, but that we become vehicles to reveal Hashem's Malchus. And the way that we get renewed in this also, which is the essence of what it means to be a Jew, our place of renewal where we get empowered as individuals, not just as a people, but as individuals, that we get empowered to carry out this tafkid, is also from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So Yom Hadin also, a day of judgment also, for whether we are going to be proper vehicles for the revelation of Hashem's Malchus this year. So this is something that is a very, very important day coming up. Of course, calling in and bringing in and summoning in and welcoming in the new Chodesh through blessing the Chodesh is a piece of it. So, we have Shabbos to do that for Birchas Chodesh. And further, let's think more about the word Nisan. Another dimension of the month is, of course, it's a month of miracles, right? Nisan, Milshon Nes. It's from the language of Nes. Now, Nes there's a piece of Nes that's like, and I don't know how much longer I can talk, but there's a piece of Nes that's very important to be attentive to. Okay. Now, very often people are familiar with like the idea from the Ramban about the Nes is the idea of the klones, like a banner. It's like, a miracle happens. It's an overt miracle, and it raises up the banner and is an absolute demonstration of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mastery over his creation. And that's called the miracle. It's like a flag waving on a banner on the top of the hill, declaring to everybody HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mastery. That's an idea about Nes that many people are familiar with. That's the purpose and the nature of an outright miracle. But I want you to know something. If we say Ashrei every day, several times a day, and Ashrei is a very powerful parak of Tehillim. They all are, each in their own way. But Ashrei, it says, a person who says Ashrei 3 times a day is a ben olam haba. It says about Ashrei some things that it doesn't say about every parak, okay? That you're a child of the next world by reciting Ashrei 3 times a day. So, this is a pretty big deal about Ashrei. And the Gemara in Brachos asks questions about why does it have this nature? Is it because it's an alphabetic acrostic? Well, there are other alphabetic acrostic. There's even an 8 times alphabetic acrostic in Tehillim. That's chapter 119. Like, what makes Ashrei different? Now, I'm not going to get into that answer in Gemara Brachos, but I will tell you something that's very important. Ashrei is missing its nun, okay? It's an alphabetical parak, Ashrei, right? And then it goes down, let's say, what's right before the nun is the men, right? Malchus ha-malchus kol olamim, shatacha b'chol davador. Your malchus Hashem is a malchus that's forever and ever, and your dominion is in every generation. And then we immediately skip down, and we go, Hashem supports all those who fall, and and he uplifts all those who are bent over. Now, the question is, why is the nun dropped? So the Gemara in Brachos tells us that David HaMelech left out the nun because the nun has some reverberations for us that are a little bit negative. Now, the first of them is that noflim bichlal, like this is a parak that talks about Hashem's godless and his support of us, and wherever we need him, he comes and he helps us. And so why should we mention nefilah? Why are we talking about falling? Okay, nun is like a nefil, and David HaMelech was especially sensitive to the idea of the nefil because he was himself, spiritually speaking, a nefil. A nefil, for those who are not familiar, a nefil is the way we talk about a miscarried fetus. Okay, that's a nefil. And so David HaMelech, we know spiritually, he only had 70 years because he only lived by virtue of the 70 years that Adam HaRishon gave him. It's a very deep medrash about where he draws his life from, because otherwise he's a nefil. You know, in Sukkot, when we bench during Sukkot, what do we say every Birkat HaMazon? We add, Harachaman hu yakim lanu es Sukkos David hanofales. May Hashem, may the merciful one, uplift for us the sukkah of David that's nofales. Nofales doesn't mean that it fell. It means that it's constantly in a state of nefilah. This is called the spark of Mashiach that's constantly collapsing upon itself when its potential gets unfulfilled. From generation to generation, there's always possibility of it being revealed from moment to moment, in a certain sense, from day to day. And yet, every time it doesn't happen, it's as if David, his spark, goes back into a state of being a nefil. It collapses back down, and its potential doesn't get fulfilled like a fetus that doesn't come out into the world of the living. Now, this is David HaMelech, so we can understand his ritiyah, his recoil from the word noflim. He doesn't want a nun in there. The nun is dangerous. Where does the nun go? It's very important. But you know, it also means malchus. Lifnei shemesh yinon shemo, it says in Tehillim. His name will rule and expand and magnify forever and ever. Lifnei shemesh, for as long as the sun shines. But you know, the nun, you know where it goes? The nun sofit, where does it go? That end nun, where does it go? Down below the line, very, very deep down. Problematic. It means that David HaMelech is always at risk of falling. So what did he do? When he wrote this parak of Tehillim, he includes the nun, but where does he include it? So Meich Hashem l'chol hanoflim. He takes the nun and he wraps it up and brings it into the samech. Samech, the letter itself, means what? Smicha. It means it's supportive, okay? Meaning he doesn't mention the nun in Ashrei without wrapping it inside of the samech, without supporting it by the samech of the following pasuk, okay? So Meich Hashem l'chol hanoflim. He only mentions nifilah, nun of Nebuchadnezzar. Nun is difficult for us. Nun was the destroyer of the first Beit HaMikdash, was Nebuchadnezzar Yimach Shemo. So we understand that David HaMelech very carefully only put the nun supported by the samech. And when you have a nun that's uplifted by a samech, you have a nes. A nes is not when something just happens. A nes is when something is destroyed and falling to pieces and something is a problem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the support from on high that needs to drag it out from its place of nefilah so that it's going to stand up tall on and demonstrate powerfully that HaKadosh Baruch Hu malchuscha malchus kol olamim umemshaltecha b'chol davador, that his malchus extends everywhere, even down to where the nun goes down below the line. Okay, so it's a month of Nisim, and Hashem should help all of us individually, all of us collectively.
You can go more.
We should be. I don't want to steal time. If
no,
I'm not,
you can
I'm not
go
supposed
more.
to
You
go
can go
on.
more. But I want you to
Yes.
go more. It's fascinating what you just brought up. Absolutely.
Okay, so all of this I'm just bringing from the Bnei Sascha, from the first drasha of Nissan, and if you want to open it up and look there, bevakasha. Okay, what were you going to ask, Nomi?
I want to ask you, why was David HaMelech I want you to continue to, why was David Melech only given 70 years? Why
That's
was
a
he
good.
only given the 70 years from Adam Arishon? If it's Beit Malchus from David Melech, why was he only given the 70 years?
I don't know. I don't have a written source to give you an answer, but I can only tell you what I feel from my own self. 70 years, it says in Tilim in Perek Tzadik that we have the life of a person is Shivim Shana in the Shmonim Shana. The average lifespan of a person, even now, it's thousands of years later. It varies between 70 and 80 years. If a person is very strong, he'll go to 80, but 70 in the 70s, that's where a person's life. That's when we talk about 70 years, we're talking about the lifetime, a lifespan. David HaMelech was given an average lifespan. And I think that one of the things that's really encouraging about that, you should say, how come he shouldn't be given 200 years? Let him have 500 years. Why does he get only 70 years? But the truth is, I think there's something that's very mechazik in that, because it means that you can do the work of being goyal yourself in the world in a lifespan. Okay, he gets a lifespan. Now, if his potential collapses down, so then it reasserts itself when the Jewish people are zoche, and with Hashem's kindness, we should be zoche and have Hashem's kindness, because even if we're not zoche, we should have it anyway. That's the whole nature of Nissan, is that even if we don't fulfill the terms of the deal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kindness can overwhelm us, and so it's possible for it to happen even without us being ready for it. But in any case, yeah, I like the idea of 70 years. 70 years is a human term, right? It's the term of a human life. And it means that the work that he will do is in human terms. So I like that idea. Now, I didn't see it inside. That's just my feeling about it, but it's a good question.
But what was the concept of nefilah? What's the concept of
it means that the spark of the nefil idea is that it's always in a state of collapsing down, because it's like this potential that it's always threatened by collapsing in upon itself. You know how people get, like, people love to hear like Chachamim saying, okay, the Malbim the Malbim said in his writings, he wrote already more than 100 years ago that Mashiach is coming in the year Tir Ad. Tir Ad was 1914. Tir Ad is from the language of it's going to shake. Okay, Tir Ad, you're quaking. Now, certainly great convulsions came to the world in 1914. It's the beginning of World War I. And there are those who say, well, World War I was just the preliminary to World War II, right? So the time of Tir Ad, and if we go back to the time of the Ramban, and the Chachamim going back for generation upon generation, we've had many, many Chachamim throughout the generations, and even in our own lifetimes, who said, now is the time, now is the time, now is the time. But the way you think about it is like this. It's kind of like this build, okay? And there's a kind of build of an Eis Ratzon. And we've had, even in recent years, many of these. Many, okay? Many. COVID came, build. And everybody's certain that Mashiach is coming today, right? And then it seems to collapse upon itself. And then there was a war just this last year, right? The beginning of the war after Simchas Torah. And it's build. And everyone could, okay. But this managing the build and the collapse is something that the Jewish people have to have a lot of expertise in. Because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to manage through 2,000 years of Golus. You see, we knew when we went into Golus the first time, after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the first Beis HaMikdash, the Nevi'im told us, it wasn't only one Navi either. The Nevi'im made very clear to us, it's only going to last 70 years. But we also knew that after the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, the Chachamim were fully aware that it was going to be a very, very long exile. Okay? So the management of this like building to an Eis Ratzon, and then if it collapses, that we have the wherewithal to be able to reawaken ourselves into a newness and a freshness of anticipation of Geula, even in the disappointment of a ta'arich having passed, like say, the Malbim saying 1914, and then it was World War I, instead of it being the kicking off of the Geula in an obvious way. So this is like a very deep understanding. I think that even without having it articulated, the Jewish people really live on this. Is like, we understand that Mashiach's koach is purely a nascent koach. It's a koach that's always in the womb, and it's waiting to come into fruition. And if it doesn't, then it collapses upon itself. It's sukas David hanofalas taka. It does go back into a kind of it kind of aborts, like mission abort, yes. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be straight away a new opening. Like it says, Chazal said, when was the spark of Mashiach born? At the time of the Churban. What does that mean? It was just the Churban. But no, the time of the coming of Mashiach and its potential is immediately after the last collapse. And so we go through many, many cycles like this. And no one should be, honestly, you just have to hold, you have to hold with it because on the pneumius, inside of the worlds, inside of reality, I mean, in its essence, in its spiritual place, everything is building up exactly the way it's supposed to. Nothing actually collapses on the inside. It's only in the chitzonius, in the externality of it, and it's an expression outside that it appears to collapse. But actually, what's happening is that everything is being built up exactly the way it's supposed to until it's time for the revelation of the Geula Shlema.
What about the concept of the fact? What about the concept of the fact that there is that on Sunday, right, Motzei Shabbos on Sunday, which is Rosh Chodesh, that we have the ability, or the sarim of the world are chosen, right? Like they're chosen, right? So they're chosen, and then it depends upon what kind of year we're going to have. So what is Yehudis? What is that dependent on? Like what is
mostly
depends?
mostly desire. Like the Ratzon, like to be, we're so. I want to take you around and show you before the light goes, but we're very here. I'm a gardener, okay? You gotta all be gardeners. Find yourself an opportunity, a way to be gardeners. Because I want you to know that you have here, okay, like you put in seeds. Sometimes they take fruit. Like right now, my garden's a mess because I was traveling a lot, okay? So I put in all these bulbs, the freezy over here. They're totally taking over. But Baruch Hashem, like here, you put in these bulbs, you don't know what's coming up. Okay, these bulbs I put in, these are different kinds of beautiful poppies of Eretz Yisrael, right? Now look, when I put these in, I had no idea whether they're going to come out, what's going to happen with them. I planted them with a lot of trust that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing, and he created systems that work and that I can rely upon. Now, I don't know if any particular bulb is going to come up in any given year, but I put my Emuna, Zraim, the Meseches of Zraim, which has to do with agriculture, Mishnah, right? It's the first of the Mesechtos, the first of the orders of the Mishnah, of the Sdarim of the Mishnah. So Chazal called Zraim, Seder Zraim, Emuna. That's what they called it, Emuna, faith. And because the essence of being the person who's able to put seeds in the soil and expend their energy, their koach and their moach, their resources to put something in, with the understanding that in Yirtzeh Hashem, with Hashem's help, they'll come to fruition. This is the essence of Emuna. So if anybody wants help with their garden, I'm happy to help you. But I think we all have to be very big gardeners of Emuna. Not only guardians of Emuna, but gardeners of Emuna. To learn how to be able to plant seeds and not to be thrown by winters that come afterwards, where you travel and you didn't water enough and you don't know if anything's going to come up or what's going to happen. No, you do your best, and then you see what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in store for you. I think that this is something that it's a mumchi. It's like an expertise, of not getting thrown by the appearances on the outside. Like I showed you the flowers, but you should have seen what it looked like not that long ago. I didn't know if we were going to have any blooms at all. So I think that that's how things are in general. Like HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to go all the way with him, to really throw ourselves onto him, like to do the efforts, like utmost, do what we can, and really to abandon ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to really lirtzos. Like, I tried to explain, like, rotzon. It's so powerful, rotzon. The highest thing in a person is their rotzon. You could get together and you could do tefillas, you could learn, you could do all kinds of mitzvahs and do all kinds of, the harbos schuyos, like you're doing here. You have all this wonderful thing that you're doing with these ladies. So it's wonderful that you're all getting together, you learn together, you daven together. But overall, I think it's really just like to spark each other's ratzon, to want the best, to want the good, to not give up inside of your heart when you see all kinds of things that are like lo pshutim, very lo pshutim bichlal. All kinds of things that are crazy going on in the world. And you could lose your hope. You could lose your, the spark inside of you. No, you don't look at the externality. You stay focused on the tachlis. That Hakadosh Baruch Hu knows what He's doing. Hakadosh Baruch Hu's plan is being carried out exactly the way it's supposed to be. Not a single thing, even with all the loss and devastation that people suffer. I'm not blithe about the kind of suffering that people go through in this world. Not at all. Okay, but beholzo, like nevertheless, we're still keeping faith with Hakadosh Baruch Hu. This is something that's it's really the main place of the avodah is the ratzon, and to give time to it. Like spend some time every day. Just you learn together, you davening together. Just their souls. Like find a little corner for yourself in your life, a 10 minutes where you're just sitting someplace where you're happy and you just wanting and allowing yourself to feel the yearning of the good, yearning for the good, for the tachlis, for the tov. It's very powerful. There's nothing harder. There's nothing higher in a person. You have a body that acts and you have a mouth that speaks and you have a mind that thinks. And above them all, you have a crown of your desire and your yearning. This is the highest part. It's above your thoughts. What you really yearn for, what you really want. So it's a very pure place. We say nothing stands before the Ratzon. That doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. Nobody does whatever they want. This world, you have many obstacles to carrying out your will, but that's not what Chazal meant when they said that Ein Davar Omed B'fnei Ratzon. It means I could sit in my corner and I can dream. I can dream of Gilui Mashiach Tzidkenu. I can dream and yearn for the very best for my children, my grandchildren, for every person in the world. I could have that ratzon, right? And nobody stops me from having that ratzon, and nothing obstructs that ratzon. It doesn't mean I can carry it out. It's not in my hands. But my ratzon is free. And Reb Nosson of Breslau would say this, ha-ratzon chofshi. My ratzon is free. It's completely at liberty to yearn for all the best, the absolute best, for the world as a whole, for every individual. So Nissan is a very big time to tap into the freedom that you have in your ratzon.
It's amazing. I'm going to open it up to other questions, but I just want to say one thing so interesting. You mentioned, it's so interesting, the so many sides of every little thing. Like you look at, but it's so fascinating because you talk about, the renewal of and being a gardener, and it's so amazing. We don't realize the level of chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you're talking about growing these flowers, but there's so many variables that go into it as well. For example, if you understand that putting your hands in the earth, Yehudis, actually increases your microbiome by millions and millions, right? So it's like everything, every single thing, if we would go into it from a deeper perspective, we can see that every single thing, it had so many, what's the word I'm looking for? Like there was so many sides, right? So many sides to it. It wasn't just the renewal of seeing the beautiful flower. It was also, understanding the seed and the root and what's going to come out of it, and how and what it adds to our own bodies and the fungi that it creates in the world. It is it's really, when you think about it.
Yes, now I'll tell you, when I started growing, I was always a gardener before I ever came to Eretz Yisrael, and for many decades I did not have the opportunity to garden. And so I built this garden, Baruch Hashem, with Nisi. It's not posh, it's not stam, okay, because where I live and where I am, it's the klal, not muvan me'elav, that we have the opportunity to have this. It's not like we're people with a lot of means or something like that. So it's so it was only after my father, Zichron Livracha, passed away, and then it was COVID. I had the opportunity to really build the garden, and I'm a spiritual gardener, which means that, like, my place where I really feel the avoda very strongly is in my interaction with living, growing things. And I do sit here on Shabbos. I sit here on Shabbos and I literally watch the grass grow, so to speak. Part of it is like, I love the Shmir Shabbos B'Poel. See, Shmir Shabbos is mostly in refraining from doing forbidden actions. So for me to come to the garden and recognize right away, I didn't water here, I should have weeded there, meaning it's all of these malachos that are actually abos malacha, they're serious malachos. That and I look at it and I say, it's Shabbos, I'm not going to do it, right? So right away, this is like a very, very big Shmir Shabbos, because there are avos malacha that I recognize in front of me as being work that's waiting for me, and I actually make a decision, I'm not going to do it. But in addition to that, I remember when I first started growing things here, I was a gardener and I was a forager and all kinds of things in Chutz La'aretz. I was an environmental educator before I went into Torah teaching a lifetime ago. And I would watch things, literally watch them grow all Shabbos. And I said to my husband once, I don't understand what's going on here, because I don't know what's going on here with the plants here, but they're different than they ever were in Chutz La'aretz. And I was always a very, very green person. So not long afterwards, someone told me a dibur that she saw from a Volbe, that he says in Eretz Yisrael everything gets a jump up in terms of what it is in its existence. So in Eretz Yisrael, plants are at the bechina. Tzemach is the bechina of chaya. That means that instead of being vegetative, it's something more like a living creature, like an animal, like watching a kitten or something like this. And that's why I was so endlessly fascinated by them, because even though they don't appear to move, they have incredible chayas in them. And I was feeling it. It was very nice for me to be able to see it. So all spiritual processes, like even just think about it. I have blueberries here that are 5th year blueberries, but I also have 4th year, and I have plants that are fruit trees in their 3rd year. And I have some that are actually new Tu B'Shvat. I cut new transplants from new shoots from a bunch of fruit trees, which is the right time to do it. And now I have like 20 new blueberry starts. If anybody wants a blueberry bush, come to me. They're very
you're
expensive.
so lucky.
I'm not going to be able to raise them all because I just don't have enough space for it. So if anybody wants a blueberry, and I give away in the spring, I tend to give away in the summer, lots of grapevines, and I make new starts and then I just give them away. But what I wanted to say is this: you have now this is a chiddush that I just had just from thinking about it. You see, Dor HaRevi, you know that when you have fruit trees, so for the first 3 years you can't have any use of them at all, right? The fruits you can't have any hanafa. It's orla. And then the 4th year, if you're in Yerushalayim, so or whatever, if you poded the fruits, you have to redeem them. There's a certain whole thing you have to do for it, but you can make use of those 4th year fruits if, under certain circumstances. Okay, it's described in mitzvahs and parshas kedoshim of what to do with netu revoy, the 4th year fruits, and in the 5th year they're free. You can use them. That, to me, while I was thinking today about what I'm going to learn with you, I remembered. Oh, of course, Dor HaRevi goes free. Doesn't it say in Bris Ben Habsarim that after the 4th generation, the Jewish people are going to go free? And I realized it's also talking about the fruits. And I have no doubt whatsoever that even though that was a chiddush that I came to from my feeling about something, for sure it's correct. And now I'm remembering probably Reb Nosson says it, but for sure it's correct. Because the things that exist in the world, it's not just that they're facets and dimensions that relate to each other. The physical world is the outermost layer of reality. The innermost is the most spiritual, and you have different levels and layers until you get to the physicality of the world. But the physicality of the world is speaking the truth of Hashem all the time. It's speaking Hashem's Torah all the time.
Wow. Somebody asked somebody asked, what is the importance of Ashrei? She wrote it. What is
that it makes you a Ben Olam Haba, that connects you to Olam Haba?
Yeah.
Well, let's think about it. Did you ever really, I know everybody says it, but did you ever really look at what's going on there in the language?
I know. It's true.
Okay, so look, I want you to know what happens. Pay attention to just one prat. I'm not going to go into details about Ashrei, but there's one prat you have to pay attention to. From pasuk to pasuk, even within each pasuk, we move back and forth between 3rd person and 2nd person, 3rd person and 2nd person. We talk about Hashem, we talk to Hashem. We talk about Hashem, we talk to Hashem. Talk about Hashem, talk to Hashem in every pasuk.
Right.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
So this was pointed out to me by somebody when I was in a base Evil, actually, by Rabbi Sutton. if you know Rabbi Avram Sutton,
Yeah.
very special person. So I remember sitting and we davened mincha, and he spoke there about Ashrei, and that really spoke to me. There's a lot of things that are very important about Ashrei. One of the basic. Okay, I'll tell you what the Gemara in Bracha says very simply. It's got basically the most important pasuk in it. There's a lot of important pasukim. What is the most important pasuk that you have to emphasize in Ashrei? What's the pasuk that if you weren't mechaven in that pasuk, you missed out on Ashrei? Who knows? Very good. Okay, so that is considered to be the pasuk that sets Ashrei apart from the rest of the alphabetic acrostic. Because you go my aleph taf to, this is called, it's got special properties to it, because aleph taf, to go from the beginning of the aleph base to the end, means it's a kolel. It includes everything. That's the idea of an alphabetic acrostic, whether it's in a tefillah or whether it's in tehillim. But further than that, the Gemara identifies, because it then asks the question, there are other acrostics. So how come? Yeah, but I told you, Chaya, the missing nun is not missing. It's even better. The nun is wrapped by the samech. It's supported by the samech, which is the only way you want a nun. That's a maila of Ashrei. Not that it's missing, but that it's in the place where it's going to get supported, so that it's not left hanging down into the dangerous places. So it's actually the higher expression of the nun, because it's already encompassed and supported by the support of Hashem. Okay, I think I have to go.
Okay,
I think we're about done.
This was amazing. This was amazing. Thank you so much. Really unbelievable. Thank you so much.
It's wonderful what you're doing. And look, anytime, you know how many Pirkei Tehillim you did. Oh, or that learning that you did of the Chofetz Chaim. I was listening in.
But we do the Tikkun HaKlali every day. So we're 70, 80 women. Do you realize we're doing 80 prakim?
No, you're not doing 80 prakim. I think I've explained.
No, we're doing 80 books of Tikkun HaKlali.
No. Listen to me. It's much more than that. Listen to what you're doing when you do stuff together. Rabbi Nachman explains in the Kutei Moharan, and this is based on Sefer Yetzirah, okay, is that whenever you have a group of people doing a spiritual work together, they actually are doing it in a very complex spiritual arrangement, because it's not 80. Let's say you had 80 prakim of Tehillim. I know you did much more than that, but let's say 80 prakim of Tehillim, you have 80 women, okay, and you're all saying the same parak. Let's say that's like the simplest calculation you can make. But 80, that's not 80 women. Okay, whether this works in a virtual environment, it's only when you're actually physically together, I'm not sure. But let's assume that it also works in a virtual environment. So it means that there's not only each individual, there's also the group as a whole, correct?
Right.
But wait a second, there's also, on the spiritual plane, you and me, Naomi, and there's me and Mickey, and there's me and Naomi, and there's me and Sarah Malka, and there's, okay, but wait a second, there's you and Mickey, there's you and Sarah Malka, there's you and Naomi, wait a second, then there's you and Mickey and Sarah Malka, and Mickey and Sarah Malka and me. Okay, now the way that you get to the total number of how many possible combinations, if anybody remembers their high school math, is called the factorial, and it goes like this: 80 times 79 times 78 times 77 times 76 times 75 times 74 times 73 times 72 times 71 times 70 times 69. Okay, you are so far in astronomical numbers of combinations that you can't even calculate them anymore. And on the spiritual plane, when I said before that in the Pneumius, everything is constantly being built, you have no idea how powerful it is and what incredible spiritual structures that are the completion of the Koma, this upright structure of Malchus, when you daven, when you pray or learn together, the bigger the group, the more is being accomplished. So, Naomi, you have a schus that's really incredible, but I'm just telling you, it's not 80, it's 80 times 79 times 78 times 77, and all the way down the line, plus one more, okay? I'm going to go. Everyone should have a good week. No, but I have to tell you something else before you go, it's also, I want to tell you something. Like, if you look at most people, like when they say, like when they learn Chofetz Chaim, it's like they listen to a recording or on their own time. But when you think about the Mesiras Nefesh of this group, who comes on every single day, and we literally learn it together, I don't think we understand the level of what we're doing. No way to understand. I'm just, for sure, no way to understand. There's no question. I know. And it's not the same as when you divide Tehillim up. It's not, because when we come on and we say, when everybody makes the Mesiras Nefesh to come on, it's not simple, every single day. And we say, we just finished Az Yashir, and then we do 13, 13, 13 now, right? And we've done
Tikkun HaKlali, I don't know how many times, and we do Nishmas, and we've done like Perek Shira, and we literally everything you can think of. But it's like when you think about it, like I sometimes feel like crying and thanking Hashem with all my heart, because when I look and I see, wow, we're 80 women, we have just completed like saying Tikkun HaKlali live together. I don't think people understand the schus, the kiss of a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
No. Okay, ladies, I gotta go. I have an appointment.
Thank you.
This
Thank
is
you.
Haraba. Everyone should have a beautiful
I will
Chodesh.
tell everybody
Chaperai.
that SHIVITI, that Yehudis Golshevsky runs a school called SHIVITI, that you can sign up for the classes. Could you tell everybody?
We have classes. I mean, right now, look, we have tomorrow we have the second set of pre-Pesach classes, and so you could register. I guess I don't know how we'll deal with registration. I didn't put up something online. I don't know if you whatever.
Send me something and I'll share it. Send me something.
Okay,
and I'll share it.
We still have classes. We have we are going to have classes in the morning tomorrow, Mr. Shem, and then we pick up classes again post Pesach. Okay, everyone should be well. Chakosh v'sameach.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, don't go. We're saying Nishmas. Don't go. Don't go. I'm just gonna take us off. I'm gonna put everybody on mute. I'm gonna take us off.
Let me just mention